So far, we have learned how to perform the queries that count the number of people and places of interest around the user's location, and we've also learned how to present this information as a JSON object that is ready to be consumed by JavaScript. Now it's time for us to create some JavaScript code that extracts the information from this JSON object and displays it in an HTML5 page. Before I start coding JavaScript and HTML5, let's take a look at our target HTML5 page and see how this information is going to be presented in an HTML5 page. So I type in the URL to an already prepared HTML5 page. And here it is. This is the number of people who visited this place. And this is a table of the places of interest around this location. Here we see the name of the place. This is the distance of the place from the current location and the address. And if I click on this little button here, I can see some extra comments about that place. Let's close this. Now let's go to our Sublime editor and start writing our JavaScript and HTML5 code. I suggest we start from the hello.html5 that we have already created. And the first thing that we should do is to add the jQuery library to our HTML5. So inside the head tag of the HTML, I add this script tag, which loads the jQuery library from the jQuery.com. You can also download this jQuery library and put it next to your HTML file and then make a local URL here. The next thing we should do is to write a code that obtains the current location of the user, because we need to pass the current location to our first query.jsp file in order to get the JSON object containing the number of people and places. Now to write the rest of our JavaScript code, let's create another script tag and close it so that we don't forget. And inside this script tag, I am going to create a function called getLocation that obtains the current location of the user's browser. Actually, it uses the geolocation API of the HTML5. So we first check if our navigator supports the geolocation, and then if it does, we get the current position from the geolocation API. So let's check if navigator.geolocation, and if it's not, then we're going to print some error message. But if the geolocation is supported by our navigator, we're going to get the current position from the geolocation API. So we're using navigator.geolocation.get current position. This function requires an input, which is a function that is called after the current position is obtained. So we would call that function showPosition, and we need to define that function too. So we define function showPosition, and this function takes a position variable and consumes it. But first, let's go to our body tag and add an event listener, and so that whenever this page is loaded, it calls the getLocation function. So I add an onload event listener and then call the getLocation function on the load of the page. To test it, if we can successfully get the current position, let's put some code inside the show position function so that it prints out the location, latitude, and longitude. I use console so that it does not appear on the page. I log it on the console and I print position dot coordinates dot longitude. I save it and go to our browser to test the page. In order to see the console messages, we have to activate the developer tools in Chrome. So I go to the tools, developer tools, and a little window shows up in the bottom, and I reload this page. And here it is. This number, -123 point something, shows the longitude of my location. So now I know that the getLocation function works successfully. Now that we know that we have the latitude and longitude of the current location, let's go back to our editor and try to make a call to our JSP file and send an HTTP request to get the JSON data for this current location. To do that, we use an AJAX call, which looks like this. It contains a URL to our JSP file and the data, which are the input parameters for our HTTP request, and the type, that is GET, and an error and a success function. The error function is called if the HTTP request is not successfully performed, and the success function is called if the request is successfully performed and we have the data available. So we provide the URL to our JSP file, first query the JSP here, and then the input parameters are the latitude and longitude, which are the position that coordinates that latitude and the position that coordinates that longitude. And if an error happens, we print in the console the term error, just so we know that an error happened when making the AJAX call. And if the call is done successfully, we want to get this data back, which is that JSON data, and make a JSON object out of it, and then use that object to display the information in our HTML5 page. But first, we transform this data into a string format, and then transform that string format into an object format. We use JSON.stringify function to transform the data into a string, and then the eval function to transform it into an object. But here, let's print something out so that we make sure that the AJAX call is done successfully. So I print in the console this object, which is our JSON object, the people variable of this object. Actually, it's capital and save it and go back to our browser and test it. Yay! Here comes a 4, which is the number of people, 4 people. So we know that it successfully makes the AJAX call to our JSP file and gets the JSON data back. Let's go back to our browser and take a look at the data again. I will make this maximize and go to the network tab of the developer tools and look at this first query, the JSP request that has been sent to our server. The response contains this JSON object. It printed out the people variable, which is 4, and here in the console we have 4, so it's right. And now we want to take other field values like places, name, type, address, or distance.